Callie, Lawson-Freeman. We're switching it up today. We're talking a little U.S. women's soccer.
Soccer.
The national team was announced for the Olympics last week, and I want to say it caused quite some noise. I think good noise, right, in a
Yeah.
way. But they released the roster and the front line, Callie, for the first time in their international history, well, just the first time for them, is
Mhm.
an all-black front line. Their
Yeah.
forwards are Crystal Dunn, Trinity Rodman,
Oop.
Jaedyn Shaw, the Sophia Smith, and Mallory Swanson. I mean, this is incredible. And the reaction to it was amazing. So many people feeling seen, represented. It meant a lot to so many people, and people often will say, why does race matter? But representation does matter. Seeing people who look like you does matter, and it's not just the front line. I mean, in total, when you count the two alternates, it's 10 women of color.
On a roster of 18 players, including alternates. That's super freaking cool. Like that is so cool. I think you mentioned it. Like if you can see it, you can be it. And I think for a sport like soccer, which has not historically looked like this, it's especially cool. I think soccer it's not a cheap sport to get it. Like there's a lot of overhead to become a soccer player, to
Yeah.
do the travel games and all this stuff, to join the clubs and have the cleats and all this. So I think that there's a lowering of the barrier of entry, and then there's also more visibility. I mean, you talked
But
about
connect that a little bit more for people, why the
yeah.
cost
I
is
mean,
an issue.
for sorry, what why cost is an issue?
Why that may have been a barrier to less people of color being able to be involved in the sport.
Oh, I mean, absolutely. I mean, I think if you look at just demographics, there are a lot of people of color, black people who are from lower income communities, disadvantaged, like they're not in the situation to pay for those things. But I think they're also not in the situation to even know that they should be aspiring to play soccer. Like I think that there was a great note that you sent me about how the National Women's Soccer League, like how the league has expanded to places like Atlanta, to play,
Right.
like these are places where there are lots of black people who now can go watch soccer players. And I think like there are so many really cool role models. Like I look at somebody like a Trinity Rodman, and she is, oh my goodness, like she is so feisty, she's fiery, she's really
I
fun to
love
watch.
her.
Youngest player in league history to record 10 goals and 10 assists in a season. I remember there was so much excitement when she was drafted. I mean, people talk a lot about how she's Dennis Rodman's daughter, but like she's only gotten better since she was drafted. She's incredibly fun to watch. Sophia Smith is the same way. I mean, I look at like I said, like there's so much to aspire to. Naomi Girma, Stanford alum, like she is
Yeah. And she's
excellent.
her defense is incredible.
Right.
The note that Callie mentioned I sent her was a story written in SB Nation by Treb Tracy. Definitely worth reading. It's an opinion piece, but for people who are new to soccer, and I consider myself not new, but more casual. I'm definitely someone who more so tunes in for the World Cup and the Olympics and loosely follow. So it's still right for someone like me, but also for people who are new, who want to get into it. But this is also one of those reasons why representation matters, because yes, people will take an interest because they see people look like them. And if they want to know more, you want to learn more. This piece that was written, the look of the U.S. women's national team, Olympic team, is a cause for celebration. It really breaks down the history of the team and soccer, women's soccer in the US. So it's really a good read. And there's also some podcasts that are really good that people can tune into. One that is on my radar is the Shea Butter podcast. Black woman, but they're soccer all year round. So and they obviously look to highlight, women of color and Black players. So definitely a really good podcast to tune into. So just for anyone who's listening to this, and last year, when I used to do Ladies First Fridays on Brother from Another, Zena Kata had joined me. You as well, Callie. I believe you were a part of that conversation.
Jamaica.
Yes, and we talked about Nigeria, and we talked about Jamaica, and that was like one of our best performing segments. There was so much interest in it, more than when we discuss the U.S. women's national team. And I don't think it's because people aren't excited about them, but some of these other countries and seeing these, other cultures, there's an interest in it. People want to know about it. And so, uh, we try to touch on it when we can because it is important. We're nearing the Olympics. Obviously, NBC has the Olympics, so we're big Olympics lovers over here. But there are people who are interested in it and learning soccer and wanting to know more about these players. And these are some good places to start.
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of want to touch back on something I said earlier. I don't want it to seem like I'm saying Black people are poor largely. I'm saying that there's like a tie between like years of systemic racism that has led to rates of poverty in the Black community. I'm not saying
Right.
like Black people are generally poor. I'm just saying that, there is a link there because of
For sure.
the way that Black people have grown through this country. There have been years of hardships and things to overcome. So that's why I think this should be very celebrated, and I think that that's why like lowering of the varying barriers to entry is also incredible and exciting. But yeah, I just want to clarify that. I feel like maybe that didn't
Hopefully
come
no
out right.
one received it as that because that was pretty clear to me.
Okay.
But some people, I think it's important to point out because, like, the reason there's always push for DEI and the reason we want representation is not because we don't work hard and all of those things. We are starting at a disadvantage, right? We are starting because things were taken from us. That's just the history, and we can't like overlook that. And so that impacts so many different areas of society. It impacts if the sports that tend to have larger Black populations, just so people understand historically, it's because they were more economical, they were more feasible. Basketball courts could be found in most inner cities, so Black people could go play on a basketball court. Some of these things, it's about access, it's about finances, it's about things, resources that we just don't have due to no fault of our own. So that's important. And so yes, when people see these things, we see it, we see representation, we're going to celebrate it. And no one's going to make me feel ashamed of doing that or many others. And so we're going to talk about it. That is why race matters. It's why representation matters, and this team is a representation really of what the US looks like now. It's like
Yes.
40% people of color,
Yeah.
right? Like, a team that is all white doesn't really represent the United States.
Absolutely. Okay, we talk about representing the United States though. You know who's been representing the United States for dang near 14 years? Alex Morgan,
Yeah.
who will not be on this Olympic team.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like a big deal, for many. And look, Alex Morgan is very beloved, understandably. It seems from everything that I read, they went with versatility. There's a certain style that they have to play when you feature Alex Morgan. Obviously, she's one of the best strikers. We know all the goals she scored for the USA. We're not trying to take away from Alex Morgan's resume. I'm certainly not at all. I'm an observer. I don't have a strong opinion on this, but there seemed to be the person who seemed to largely be picked out and attacked was Crystal Dunn. There seemed to be a lot of people who thought, why is Dunn on the team and not Alex Morgan? And I think it's maybe if you're just doing like a one-on-one comp, in theory, but that's not how this works, right? And so it's about how Crystal Dunn works with those other 4 players in the
Yeah.
front line, right? It's about the versatility of all of them, that they all can play multiple positions
Mhm.
that Alex Morgan can't. And so that is what they leaned into. And, there's a lot of people who get that. Most people who know, follow soccer, talk about it, thinks it makes a lot of sense. Now, obviously, there's always the veteran presence. People will question the experience, and she's still obviously she didn't have like the best like season, but she's still a very good player,
Yeah.
obviously. And so, yeah, I mean, look, anytime a player like that who's been so popular and so big for the sport and helping to grow it and the profile of that team, it's going to come with that kind of commentary. But I don't think this is a lack of respect for Alex Morgan. Here she said, today she's disappointed about not having the opportunity to represent our country on the Olympic stage. This will
Mhm.
always be a tournament that is close to my heart, and I take immense pride anytime I put on the crest. In less than a month, I look forward to supporting this team and cheering them on with the rest of the country. And then she said,
Yeah.
LFG. We all know what that means. So I love this response from her.
Okay.
She
Yeah.
expressed that she had some disappointment, but also made it clear she's supporting the team. And that's what others should do, unlike we saw with the Olympic response for Team USA basketball and people not wanting to support the team because a certain player was not on there. I think it's really important that she made that kind of statement. There might be people who think and feel like that, but I think her basically saying we need to get behind this team is actually a
Mhm.
pretty important statement to make.
I do want to say, I wonder if there is like another layer to it. You talked about the fit and the versatility, but look, the Olympic team is being led by a new coach this year, Emma
Yes.
Hayes. She comes from Chelsea in the Women's Super League. She's won championships on multiple levels.
Yep.
However, she was only able to oversee 2 friendly matches with this, like before she could decide that roster. And it made me think about how, like in 2022, the prior U.S. Women's National Team head coach, Vlatko Andonovsky, if I'm pronouncing that right, I hope I am, but he tried to leave Alex Morgan off that team in 2022. And then there was an injury, and
Right.
Alex Morgan really proved herself too. Like she came back and she battled. And I don't think that like, and then also she really performed well and that World Cup, the Olympic qualifying event, she won the golden ball. Like that was a real gotcha. Like you're about to leave me off this team. And now look at me with the golden ball. So I kind
But
of
see, I just don't feel like things like that should be looked at as like a gotcha. It's like the players who got injured could have maybe done those same things. We don't know because they got injured.
oh,
So it's just like I don't there's always going to be a point. It's like, yeah, you can still do something. You're Alex Morgan, but if we're going by what's the best thing to do for the team
yeah.
based on what everyone can do, these players are probably just a little better, but it doesn't mean that you couldn't come in there and be helpful.
Yeah.
So, and you
And like
never
the
know.
reality is
Obviously, I'm
like,
not wishing injuries, but I mean, they have their alternates already, but I'm just saying it's not, I don't think, I know you're not saying this, but these
yeah.
things are not personal. Well, sometimes it can
And
be,
to
but
your point though, like the
right.
2023 World Cup, she retained her starting role and she like and she didn't score in that tournament at all. So I think that
Right.
like also though the team's issues that year what in the world? The team's issues that year were
Yes.
deeper than just her.
Exceeded her.
Right, there was a lot going on. But I think to your point, it's not like it's really not a gotcha, but it does kind of it makes me think like could she have had the opportunity to have that kind of not gotcha, but like I
Well,
don't
the
know.
coach, though, has been critical of things about this US women's team before in the past, too. And so I think this is just more about her coaching philosophy. And that's what happens when you hire a new coach. So if they bet on her and they paid her, then you have to lean into what her coaching philosophy is. And if it ends up being a massive fail, then there will be, a
Yeah,
fallout from that. And,
yeah,
but until then, that's what it is. Alex Morgan has had the opportunity to represent this country multiple times and has done
really
great
have.
things, and
Yeah,
she's had the honor to do that, right? And now it's some of these young women, their chance to do that. And I agree with her. We need to get behind the team, rally behind them, and support them, because it's bigger than just a single player in Alex Morgan.
So true. And I think, like she said, she's going to be cheering. We're going to be cheering. Like you said, we're fans here of the Olympics. There's so much to be excited about from soccer. I mean, most of the qualifying events ended over this weekend. It was a crazy weekend of sports watching. I mean, we had multiple WNBA games on Sunday, two blockbuster ones with the Fever and the Sky, but then also track and field qualifiers were
Mhm,
going on, gymnastics qualifiers. We got to
mhm.
see that full artistic women's gymnastics team. Like, it's getting real
It
right now
is.
on the
So
Olympic front.
we're switching into Olympic gear, and that's what it is. One more pod that I did want to mention is the Diaspora United pod, another pod that centers Black women in the global game. So check out that, or Shea Butter, like I mentioned earlier. Two
Yeah.
really good podcasts, and there's others, right? But if you know me and you know my platform, I'm a Black woman, and I look and I listen to a lot of content that highlights Black women because they're often overlooked. So that's why I'm recommending those podcasts, right? That doesn't mean that there are not others. So you don't have to, but I want you to understand why I'm recommending what I do and what they're about and what they represent.
Yeah. Love it.
Well, go Olympics. It's going to be a fun time. Fun time right now in sports, Callie.
USA, baby. Let's go.